We have the Detroit Lions taking on the Buffalo Bills in Detroit. This is your Week 15, 2024 prediction and preview video. Hit subscribe if you're new. Also hit the like button. Let's start off with the home team, the Detroit Lions. They're looking like the best team in the NFL right now. They're on a major winning streak, and last week they had over 13 defensive players out for this game, and they still found a way to defeat their division rival, the Green Bay Packers. Not only did they defeat them once, they defeated them twice this season, and last week they did it in very good fashion. When we look at what the Detroit Lions were able to do last week against the Green Bay Packers, they went out there and they defeated them 34-31. Jared Goff on the day was 32 of 41, 283 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 1 interception, only got sacked once. Dave Montgomery had 51 rushing yards and he had a rushing touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs, 43 rushing yards, only averaged 3 yards to carry. The rushing attack was up and down in this matchup. The reason why they won this football game is because of how clutch Jared Goff was down the stretch and because of how well this offensive line played. Jameson Williams was the leading wide receiver with 80 receiving yards, Sam Laporta 54 receiving yards, and you had Tim Patrick 2 receiving touchdowns for 43 receiving yards, and St. Brown also had 43 receiving yards against this Buffalo Bills team. This is a very good defense. Last week, they did allow 40-plus points to the Los Angeles Rams, but don't get it mistaken. This is the same Buffalo Bills team that handed the Kansas City Chiefs their first loss of the season. This is the same Buffalo Bills team that went out there and manhandled the San Francisco 49ers a couple weeks ago. With that being said, even though the Buffalo Bills are very good against the run, they're very good against the pass. When I look at this offensive line with the Detroit Lions, and your starting left tackle was out last week, they have performed so well this season. They're easily the best offensive line in the NFL. That's the first key to victory in this matchup, is to keep Jared Goff protected. Jared Goff, you may say he's not a talent like a Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, and I'm not going to argue with you, but he's insanely accurate. And when you give him enough time inside the pocket with these weapons that they have, he can dissect this defense. This is a Buffalo Bills team. They can play zone, they can play man because they're defensive personnel, and they can get after the passer. With guys like Ed Oliver, AJ Epinesa, and even with Von Miller being a rotational pass rusher, but it's not consistent enough. And going against this offensive line, that should be a major issue for the Buffalo Bills. The play action game is going to push the Detroit Lions over the top in this matchup if they're able to walk away with the win. Because regardless if the run game is on fire early or not, we all know that Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell, they're going to stick with the run game, with Jahmyr Gibbs, with Dave Montgomery. Maybe the best running back situation in the NFL. When you look at Jahmyr Gibbs, one of the fastest players in the NFL, Dave Montgomery could catch the football at the backfield. He could break 2 to 3 tackles and he could take it to the house. The point of emphasis here for the Detroit Lions in this matchup is to be consistent with the pass and also be consistent with the rushing attack. Obviously, you want Jared Goff to take care of the football. He's done a very good job of that. I understand last week he did throw an interception, but besides that, he's played pretty clean football. I know that he had the 5-interception game against the Houston Texans. They still won that game, by the way. That is how stacked the Detroit Lions are this season. Hell, the only game they've lost this season has been against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that was over 2 months ago. So when I look at this situation for the Detroit Lions, take care of the football, run the football with Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, and this is the great situation against the Buffalo Bills. They struggled to cover Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp last week. And no offense to those guys, because that's one of the best wide receiving duos in the NFL. You look at the Detroit Lions, you have a star tight end in Sam Laporta. You have Tim Patrick, who is a very good red zone target and is special on 2nd and 3rd down. You also have St. Brown, who's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And Jameson Williams is one step away from hitting his head on the goalpost. He's one of the best deep threats in the NFL. You have targets all over the field. This is an offense that can cover every single blade of grass, and especially with the creativity with Ben Johnson. Hopefully Taylor Decker can play in this matchup because the offensive line takes another step when he's able to be on the field. But I look at this situation with the Detroit Lions. You go out there, you take care of the football, you run the football with Dave Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, and you may even be able to go out there and bleed clock, similar to what you did last week against the Green Bay Packers. And I would give Dan Campbell a lot of credit. He went out there on 4th down. Let's go for it. On 4th, let's kick this field goal. Let's drain the clock, give them 0 seconds remaining, and let's walk off in our building. And that's what they did last week. Dan Campbell, be aggressive. Even if it doesn't work out on fourth down, you have this defense that can have your back. And speaking of this defense, a phenomenal job last week by Aaron Glenn. We always hear about Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell doing a great job with coaching up the Detroit Lions. Aaron Glenn has been a special defensive coordinator this season. Their passing defense isn't the best, but they have one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL, and they have not been without Aiden Hutchinson for quite some time. Zadarius Smith has come in. He's been a very good edge rusher. But you look at what happened last week. Pretty much majority of their defensive starters were out of the game, especially late in the fourth quarter. And you still had guys, third stringers, stepping up, putting pressure on Jordan Love, stopping the run game. And that's going to be a point of emphasis in this matchup also. Even though they stopped the run game in the second half with Josh Jacobs, he still had 3 rushing touchdowns on the day, but he only averaged 3.7 yards a carry. You want to make the Buffalo Bills one-dimensional. You want to put that pressure on Josh Allen and take away his legs and take away the run game with James Cook. We saw last week, the Buffalo Bills went out there, they scored 42 points. In this matchup, you have to go out there and put pressure on Josh Allen and press up on these wide receivers. Keon Coleman is questionable. He hasn't played in quite some time. And the same with Dalton Kincaid at the tight end position. But they still have Khalil Shakir, who is a very good wide receiver, and Amari Cooper. Right now, they're thin at the wide receiving position. I look at the secondary with the Detroit Lions. Right now, this may be their strong suit, even though their front seven is so good with Jack Campbell, who is a very good and underrated linebacker, by the way. We always hear about Jahmyr Gibbs when he was selected in the first round. Jack Campbell may not have the interception numbers, but sometimes you don't have to have the interception numbers to be a very good linebacker in the NFL. 1 forced fumble, 51 solo tackles. He's a very good, technically sound linebacker, and he's amazing at stopping the run. Pay attention to him. They may spy him against a guy like Josh Allen, and they also may have him have the individual assignment on James Cook coming out of the backfield, because they have used James Cook as a receiving back in the past. And I go back to that Dallas Cowboys game last season. They have no problem having James Cook come out in the backfield. When I look at Jack Campbell, he's a very good linebacker. Also, look out for Trevor Nowalski, a very good player in his own right. Liam McNeil missed majority of last week's game, dealing with a head injury. He's expected to play in this matchup. He's a very good defensive tackle. That's why they gave him a contract extension. Amazing at stopping the run. He could push the pocket. But when I talk about this secondary, and when I really look at this secondary, Kirby Joseph, one of the best cover safeties in all the NFL. The man had a pick 6 a couple weeks ago against the Green Bay Packers. And when you look at him on this season, you may know Xavier McKinney to have 7 interceptions. He leads the league. He's tied with Kirby Joseph. He has 7 interceptions and 10 pass deflections. Carlton Davis has been a very good cornerback over this last month. 2 interceptions on the season, 11 pass deflections. He's going to have his work cut out for him, because Amari Cooper is more so of a route technician. Carlton Davis has struggled with wide receivers like this in the past, but in this last month, he's been very good. And this is the thing that I love about the Detroit Lions secondary. They can give you different looks because of the flexibility with Brian Branch and also with Kirby Joseph. And you talk about a draft class with Brian Branch, Jack Campbell, and also Jahmyr Gibbs. But Brian Branch is also another very good safety that they have on this roster. He's questionable for this game. Hopefully he can play. He has 4 interceptions, 13 pass deflections. And the only reason that he had to get out of the game against the Green Bay Packers, he was dealing with cramps. That was it. So now look at this situation. Your secondary is really going to dictate this game. If you can force Josh Allen to throw into tighter windows and force him to go out there and have those interceptions, and you can get the ball back to Jared Goff, you're going to be amazing. And when I look at what happened last week, the reason why Josh Jacobs had some of those touchdowns is because there was a short yardage situations, because the offense was not able to go out there and convert on 4th down. But that's the Dan Campbell way, to be aggressive, stop the run, and make the Buffalo Bills one-dimensional. Force Josh Allen to make those mistakes. The more time he puts the ball in the air, you're going to have a greater chance of walking away with an interception. And be careful with the big play ability with James Cook. James Cook, we saw this against the San Francisco 49ers, even though it was in the snow. He could take a 50-yard play and take it to the house. That's the type of speed that he has. He's a very good running back. But I'm not worried about the rushing defense in this matchup with the Detroit Lions. In order for them to go out there and to beat the Buffalo Bills, it comes down to the offensive line protection. Can Jared Goff continue his hot streak, take care of the football? And also, can the secondary continue to step up? And I look at Terrion Arnold. Has had some good moments as a rookie, but the penalties, they're starting to hurt the Detroit Lions. Let's go away from that. I think Detroit Lions have a great shot of winning this game, and they're the home team. Now let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen did everything he could last week to go out there and help them defeat the Los Angeles Rams. And they lost this game. And it was one of the best games I've seen all year long. Maybe the best game, depending on who you ask. They lost that game 42-44. Josh Allen had 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns for 342 passing yards, 0 interceptions, 0 fumbles on the day. They went back to the old norm of have Josh Allen be Superman. And man, it's fun to see Josh Allen go out there and throw dots across the field. Right now, he's the MVP favorite. He's going out there putting the team on his back. And that is ultimately why they lost this game. Because Josh Allen had to do everything. 23 passing touchdowns on the season to 5 interceptions. We've seen Josh Allen in the past turn the football over. This season, he's been great at not turning the football over. You can't have Josh Allen do everything. Even though he's able to do it, you're going to lose the game because no one else is able to step up. Hopefully, Keon Coleman can play in this matchup. He hasn't played in quite some time. The last time that we saw Keon Coleman on the field was when they went against the Miami Dolphins. And that was in November. We haven't seen him since then. And the same with Dalton Kincaid, who got injured against the Indianapolis Colts. Hopefully, both of those targets can play. Because we saw Amari Cooper last week, even though he did ball out, the man had 14 targets, on the day. 6 catches, 95 receiving yards. Still a very good wide receiver to have. That's why you made the trade to bring him in. Still one of the best route runners. Get him involved early. Khalil Shakir has been Mr. Consistent all season long. 5 catches, 106 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. Mac Hollins, 4 catches, 57 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. He's a big, strong, athletic wide receiver, especially what he was able to do against the San Francisco 49ers in the red zone. But they have to get more out of the rushing attack. They gave up on the run game, and I understand why. Because James Cook only had 20 rushing yards on 6 carries. Don't give up on the run game. Continue to feature him and also feature him in the pass game. 2 catches for 9 yards is not going to get it done. And I understand the Buffalo Bills defense did not give up all the touchdowns last week. I just want to make this a quick note. It was a block punt, and it went for a touchdown. Situations like that you have to clean up because that's ultimately why they also lost that game last week against the Rams. But when I look at this situation with Josh Allen, he's playing perfect right now. Continue that high streak. Keep him comfortable inside the pocket. Lucky for him, he has Deion Dawkins, one of the best tackles in the game. You look at this entire offensive line, they have been solid on the season. You want to keep Josh Allen inside the pocket, keep him comfortable. Zadarius Smith is going to be coming off the edge. Alim McNeil is going to be trying to push the pocket through the middle. You want to make sure that Josh Allen has enough time inside the pocket to dissect the defense. Right now, you can make the case that he's the best quarterback in the NFL. I understand it's Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. I'm talking about this season up to this point. Josh Allen has been a superstar. He's been that franchise quarterback. But in order to defeat the Detroit Lions, you're going to have to do it with his arms more so than with his legs. And I'm not saying don't let Josh Allen go out there and run around. You can still let him go out there and make those crazy throws and even let him rush in the open field. But take some of that load off his plate. Get the football to the running backs out the backfield. Feed Ray Davis. Feed James Cook. Get the football out to Amari Cooper and Khalil Shakir. Hopefully those other wide receivers and tight ends can play. And I'm talking about Dalton Kincaid here and also with Keon Coleman. You look at Dawson Knox, only had 1 catch for 5 receiving yards. That's not going to get it done. These other guys, they have to step up in this game. And you're going to have to really beat the Detroit Lions through the air because their passing defense right now has taken a step back. But that rushing defense, like I mentioned, one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL. You can get some cheap plays on the ground. Stick with the run game. Don't force everything on Josh Allen. But at the same time, don't stray away from it and be aggressive. Sean McDermott and more times in the past has went out there and trusted his defense a little bit more than his offense because he's a defensive-minded coach. In this game, you're going against Dan Campbell. This man could be in a 4th and 4 situation in his own territory. He'll go for it. So be aggressive. Blitz more. Put the pressure on Jared Goff. And this is where I want to talk about the defense here. This defense with the Buffalo Bills had a bad outing last week against Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua. Even though one of the touchdowns was a block punt, they still did not have a good day stopping Matthew Stafford, who is a very talented quarterback in his own right. Matthew Stafford had 320 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Kyren Williams did have 2 rushing touchdowns, but he only averaged 3 yards a carry. You have to find a way to put pressure on Jared Goff. I'm looking at Greg Rousseau in this matchup. 6.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Von Miller, only 4 sacks on the season, but we all know that he's on the back end of his career. AJ Epinesa, very good pass rusher. Ed Oliver. They have the pieces in this game to go out there and make life hell with Jared Goff. Look at what they did against Patrick Mahomes. They made life hard on him. I've also seen this team go out there and have a bad outing against the Baltimore Ravens, but that's a long time ago. I'm worried about their defense against the running backs. And the reason why is because of the speed that Jahmyr Gibbs has. And the same with David Montgomery. David Montgomery is known as a power back. That man has a lot of good speed in the open field. If you can't tackle him in the open field, you're going to be in trouble. So it doesn't come down to the front seven. I trust the back end with the Buffalo Bills. Majority of the time they gave those big plays last week, it came off of play action. They have to tone that down. And historically speaking, since Sean McDermott has been the head coach with the Buffalo Bills, they haven't had 2 bad defensive outings in back-to-back weeks. It just doesn't happen. And we've seen him, for example, last season, when this defense was decimated with injuries, they went out there and they stepped up. I'm looking at the cornerbacks in this game. I'm looking at Rasul Douglas, who is questionable. Can he continue to play well in the system? The same with Teron Johnson. You have Taylor Rapp at the safety position. And I look at Damar Hamlin. Damar Hamlin is a very good comeback story. 2 interceptions on the season. They have to step up in this game. Because even though I'm worried about the rushing defense, because the speed with Jahmyr Gibbs and the speed with David Montgomery, you now have Matt Milano, who was able to come back against the San Francisco 49ers and had a solid outing last week against the Rams. But when I look at this secondary, there's some problems there because of all the weapons the Detroit Lions have. I'm not going to come on here and just say, well, just stop St. Brown, you're going to be okay. No, you have to worry about Sam Laporta, St. Brown, Tim Patrick, Jahmyr Gibbs coming out of the backfield, Dave Montgomery. But if it's a defensive coach that can tone all this down and that can go out there and maintain this firepower, it'll be Sean McDermott, one of the best defensive minds in the NFL, going back to when he was defensive coordinator with the Carolina Panthers. This is going to be a fun matchup. Personally, for me, this is my game of the week. The Buffalo Bills going against the Detroit Lions, and the Lions are at home. You have the all-star coaching staffs with Sean McDermott going out there, being the head coach with the Bills. You look at what Joe Brady's been able to do as an offensive coordinator, was so great last season with Josh Allen, has been phenomenal all season long this season. He's going to be a head coach in the NFL one day. You look at Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator with the Lions, Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator, and Dan Campbell himself. With that being said, I do believe with all the injuries the Detroit Lions are dealing with right now, you may say they're undermanned to go against a quarterback like this. They've went against quarterbacks like this before. They've went against top quarterbacks in this league, and they've walked out with the win. I have the Detroit Lions win this game at home. And I believe the Detroit Lions win a similar fashion like how they did last week. Game-winning drive. They bring the kicker on the field like how they did last week against the Packers, how they did against the Houston Texans when they were on the road, and what they did against the Chicago Bears when they won that game by 3 points. It's going to be a close game. I do believe it'll be another shootout. I have the Detroit Lions winning this game 38-35. But let me know in the comment section below, who do you have winning this game? The Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, or Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys to stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.